Did you know that our children are being kidnapped from Hawaii in broad daylight? It's part of a larger, silent epidemic of fathers being erased from their children's lives. And it happens a lot, even more in Hawaii, due to geographical barriers and the lack of coordination between law enforcement agencies. This is Josh McClinton, and for my final speech, I'm going to talk to you about a topic that I have personal experience with in a persuasive/invitational speech that is about fathers' rights. Now, as I mentioned, there is a silent epidemic of fathers being erased from their children's lives in America, and it's been made possible by and through the corrupt family court. Now, it's something that's rampant in Hawaii, where a lot of times mothers will take the children to the mainland without the father's consent, and sometimes the father never sees the kids again until they're 18. And it does happen with the roles reversed, where the father is the one that takes them, except it's a lot more common that the mother is the one that takes them. Now, this is important because it's happened to me, so I'm sharing my personal experience, and it can happen to any man who goes through divorce and any man who has kids. Now, my situation is unique and even more unbelievable because I actually have a sole custody order. Now, a lot of guys, if they don't have a custody order in place, it's even harder for them. But it's so mind-boggling for me because I have custody and I'm still going through unbelievable hoops just trying to have my civil rights be met. Now, there is something called the UCCJEA, which is the Uniform Child Custody Jurisdiction and Enforcement Act, which was put in place to prevent these interstate child abductions, but sadly, it is not uniformly enforced. As I stated, I was awarded sole custody in my divorce, and when I let my children visit their mother 3 years later, she cut off all communication and has been claiming the children as her dependents while denying my custodial rights. Now, some of the main points I'd like to share with you is basically just that the family court is a corrupt scam which profits from destroying men's lives, and the judges and lawyers are often in cahoots together. Now, the reason that I say that family court is a corrupt scam is because it operates completely independently of the rules of law, and I've even heard it described as from a lawyer who used to work in the family court. He described it as a casino inside of a mental asylum. There's all kind of misconduct happening. One is judges are entering orders without proper authority. In North Carolina, there's only 3 conditions where an ex parte order can ever be issued. And in my case, my ex-wife somehow convinced the judge to enter this said order without even meeting any of those 3 conditions. There never was an emergency, and even if there was, she already lost custody in Hawaii. She had no right to even put in any type of claim. But all she had to do was conceal the true order from Hawaii and make a sob story to the judge, and he just acted out of authority and signed a temporary order. So that was how she got her foot in the door. Now, both states, Hawaii and North Carolina, where this occurred, both states have adopted the UCCJEA, which I mentioned, and the language in it clearly reads that North Carolina cannot make any custody determination, being that a custody order was already entered here in Hawaii. Now, these courts, they're held in secrecy. There's no accountability, no records, no oversight. I mean, there are records, but you have to dig for it. It's very hard to get a hold of this stuff, and it happens behind closed doors. I'm going to give you some examples of what I mean here. The first example, Craven County was writing temporary custody orders without ever having a jurisdictional hearing. Once I showed up and showed them the true orders, there should have been a jurisdictional hearing. There never was. The judge in North Carolina said that he had a phone conference with the judge in Hawaii. Even if that were true, it's misconduct because you cannot do that. There's supposed to be a jurisdictional hearing which consists of a panel of judges, and they decide which state has proper jurisdiction. That never happened. Another example of judges acting out of authority, ignoring rules and official court orders. The Hawaii judge has a record of service, but he lied on paper. My ex-wife failed to appear for court multiple times, and the judge dismissed my case because he stated that I failed to properly serve her, even though the court already had a record of service on file. What actually happened is she just failed to show up for months, and the judge didn't feel like dealing with it, so he flagrantly lied on paper and dismissed my case so that he didn't have to get his hands dirty. And there's no consequence for the judge. Now, my main point number 2, that the lawyers and judges are engaging in rampant misconduct. There's corrupt lawyers on both sides. Every single lawyer I hired, which I'm not going to mention their names here, but they are in my outline, they did not act in my best interest at all. They acted in their best interest. They did what was best for their bank account and their wallet, not what's best for me and my kids. They charged me thousands of dollars while just basically just spinning in circles, milking the job out as long as possible. And mind you, those were my lawyers. There were still lawyers on the other side that my ex-wife hired, and I would describe them as hired guns because all they do is add chaos and confusion and circumvent my parental rights by delaying court proceedings and just telling lies and manipulating the judges. Now, in these small town courts, the lawyers and judges all work together on a weekly basis for years and years, just like poker players or bowlers in the same league. And this creates a perfect opportunity for collusion where there's a monetized system that the judges and lawyers all benefit from. Now, they work in the same court on the same cases for years and years. They're part of the same communities, country clubs, and the same good old boy networks. And there's a hierarchy that they follow in order to advance to higher levels in their career. So I've heard it described as one lawyer being in with the judges. And if he's in, he's going to win because the judges he's in the judge's favor. So whatever they do to gain the favor is unknown. But once you're exposed to the system, it becomes clear there is a pipeline of ascension. So in closing, something needs to change. And hopefully by spreading awareness, more people will take action to prevent injustices against the American father and against our children. So in review, the family court is a corrupt scam, a corrupt system in which the judges and lawyers are engaging in rampant misconduct that they benefit from financially. We need to work together to hold our leadership accountable. If our society does not enforce the laws to protect our children, then what is the point of even having these laws in this society? And what would you do if your child was taken from you?